1997, Walt Disney Animation Studios released Hercules, and it was the eighth film produced through Disney's second golden age or renaissance of the 1990s. In the film, the main character is that of the Greek demigod Heracles, or known by his Roman name of Hercules. In the film, Philoctetes trains the young Hercules to be a hero, and through the events of the film he does so and reattains his godhood, but gives it up to be with the woman that he loves, Megara, and earns the respect of his parents Zeus and Hera, along with the rest of the pantheon of Greco-gods, and saves all of Athens from the Titans and Hades' evil plot to seize power from Zeus and rule Mount Olympus. However, during the start of the film and training montage at Philoctetes Island, Hercules is shown as a young teenager. In 1998 and 1999, Hercules, the animated series, which had 2 seasons, sought to explain and clarify some of the details during his childhood, which were somewhat vague and contradicting in the film. In the film, impressions were given that he was homeschooled by his adopted mortal parents, Amphitryon and Alcmene, but in the series it was changed to him being schooled in Athens at the Prometheus Academy. While attending the academy, he had his close friends of Cassandra and Icarus. Cassandra was that of someone who was always pessimistic, gloomy, and realistic. Even though her personal outlook was sarcastic, antisocial, and distant, she actually acted that way partly due to her powers. She had telepathic or psychic talents, much like the ancient seers of Athens, women who had supposed abilities to see into the future to predict various events or communicate with the gods. Unlike Hercules, who enjoys his abilities and eventually grows into them, Cassandra actually hated her abilities of premonition and cognition, and in the series, she mentions multiple times that it's a huge stress factor in her life and would without hesitation get rid of her powers if she could. But eventually she accepts her abilities and uses it to her advantage, as throughout the series she couldn't fully control her powers, but later exercises full control over her talents. At the conclusion of the series, Cassandra graduates from the academy and becomes the most successful and respected psychic in Athens. Icarus was born and raised in the bustling city of Athens and comes from a family of wealth, with both of his parents being in successful occupations. However, later in his childhood his parents divorced, and this emotional trauma caused an extraordinary amount of pain for him, and he rarely discussed the circumstances of his parents' separation with anyone, even Hercules or Cassandra. Much like the Greco legend of Icarus, his father, Daedalus, was an inventor and created wax wings which allowed the wearer to fly. Icarus wore the wings and actually enjoyed flying with them, but one time he flew too close to the sun and actually received bodily and facial sunburns, and later the impact of him falling back to the earth, the childhood trauma of his parents' separation, and bodily injuries that he suffered from the fall from the heavens caused Icarus to be highly eccentric, hyperactive, and carefree. It even caused his bizarre appearance, which had been mentioned numerous times in the show. There have been many times in the series as well that he suddenly has bouts of screaming and hyperactive fits while trying to express himself, and as a result of this, he had few friends. It's been said in this series that technically only Hercules and Cassandra were his friends. At the conclusion of the series, Icarus graduates from the academy and decides to make a living based off the accident that he had had with Daedalus' wax wings, and actually creates a successful business that mass produces and sells the wax wings that his father had created, earning him the alias of, quote, Icarus the Wax Wing King, end quote. One final interesting detail about this series is that due to the animated film being released before the animated series, there's no continuity between the adult Hercules and his childhood friends. The notion is suggested that in the film, Hercules ventures from his rural country home to be with his adoptive parents, then later on leaves his home to go with Phil and Pegasus as they travel to Thebes. The Prometheus Academy is in Athens, while the need for heroes such as Hercules is in Thebes. The distance from Athens and Thebes in ancient times was much more vast than it is in modern times, as all three of them had lives that needed to be lived and responsibilities that had to be met, and possibly tragically, they lost contact with one another. Sometimes a character could be forgotten because they chronologically went their own ways with their stories.